Welcome to week 5 of Advanced JavaScript. This week is a traditional week in that, as far as homework goes, you'll have a lab and check-in. So that's kind of a traditional week that you've started and kind of gotten the hang of within the semester, with the addition that your first project is due next week on Thursday before midnight. So all three of those things are going to come due. So the lab and the check-in, which are going to be under the due section of week 5, these two items are due February 24th before midnight. And then your project, so under projects and project 1 along with the project 1 submission, the project 1 is actually due the following day, Thursday the 25th before midnight. So all three of those due dates are going to approach next week. So this is just kind of a last heads up that those due dates are coming. As far as the week goes, the reading material is going to cover working with data in JavaScript. And this is unique to JavaScript in that JavaScript could be getting data from a lot of different services. So my services could be written in pretty much any programming language. So I like to explain that a service that provides data to a JavaScript application, to our front-end application, could be written in Java, could be written in .NET, it could be a service that's written in the cloud. As an example, I can't have a JavaScript object or a JavaScript application talk to a back-end Java application in Java's language, meaning maybe my Java application connects to a database and grabs data out of the database and builds a collection of students. And in my Java application, there's a student class definition. I can't send that Java student class definition over to a JavaScript application. Okay, that won't work. JavaScript doesn't understand what a Java class is. And likewise, that same thing could be said in the .NET world, or in the PHP world, or in the Ruby world. So those services that are written on the back end that are going to run on the server could be written in any programming language, but the data that comes out of those services that's going to feed my front-end application that's going to be written in JavaScript has to be either plain text, so that would be simple if it was plain text, meaning, and the use case for that is, let's say I asked a service for the age of our president. I'd get back a number. Or I asked for the salary of a CEO. I'd get back some number. Okay, so if I was getting what I like to term a scalar value, so a single value, a single piece of data, then I could get plain text and things would work just fine. I could do a type conversion and life would be good. However, if I get more complicated data, so for instance, let's say I wanted to get a list of all of the House of Representatives that are currently in Congress right now, their salaries, their geographic location, all their demographic data, so all sorts of data about the House of Representatives, like that's going to be complicated data that has to be formatted. And that data is either going to come as JSON or as XML. Those are the only two options that I have in order to take that data from a back-end service and feed it to a front-end service that's written in JavaScript. Okay, so when we're talking about working with data in JavaScript, we're always talking about data as JSON or data as XML. Okay, that's the data that we're talking about. And we're relying on our services that are written in server-side code, whatever that language might be, to provide that data in that JSON or XML format. Okay, so we're going to be dealing with working with data in JSON, working with data in XML. So there's two reading sources that'll kind of get you started. And then lastly, there's two screencasts, so demos of working with JSON data and working with XML data. Okay, so that's kind of what week 5 is going to look like. So just as a reminder, you have 3 things that are due today, or due this week, as opposed to what we've gotten used to from weeks 1 through 4, where we just had a lab and a check-in that were due. Now we also have a project that's due on the 25th. So otherwise, I'll see you next week.